It's a new year, so that means it's time for a new Fire Emblem playthrough. Welcome everyone to the introduction of my Fire Emblem 12 Maniac Mode 0% Gross playthrough, brought to you by yours truly, Don951, and the inimitable Mekkah.
Hi.
So, FE12 is a remake of FE3 Book 2, which in itself was a sequel to the very first Fire Emblem game. Therefore, this game can be considered as a sequel to FE11. Now, both of these games were released on the same system, the Nintendo DS, and cosmetically they're pretty similar, mechanically they're also pretty similar, so in this video we're just going to be focusing on the differences between the two games. If you're interested in DS Fire Emblem mechanics, you'd be better off referring to our FE11 playthrough introduction video. FE12's full name is Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem Heroes of Light and Shadow, but we're just going to be calling it FE12 because that's a mouthful. It was unfortunately never localized outside of Japan. Intelligent Systems blueballed the fanbase, and we were eagerly anticipating its localization all the way up until Awakening got announced, and then we were disappointed. But thanks to the efforts of Vincent ASM and other users on Seren's Forest, they graced us with an excellent fan translation of very reputable quality, and so unlike our FE5 and FE6 playthroughs, this game is actually going to be played in English.
Yeah, so we'll be able to read the adventures of the Avatar, or Chris. Most people think this game is about Marth, but it's really about the self-insert. At least that's the way it's written, and that's kind of controversial because, this game actually used to be about Marth. The way the self-insert works himself into the story is pretty awkward. It's almost like he replaces older characters, like Jagan in some dialogue. Of course, this playthrough is not about dialogue, it's mostly about the consequences that an Avatar has. In a Gross playthrough, he would be really good because he is absolutely broken. His Gross are customizable, but of course in this case he's going to have 0% all around, so he's mostly going to be useful for the prologue and a little bit after that, but at some point he'll stop existing. Now, FE12 has 3 hard mode difficulties, 1 through 3 stars. 1 star is hard mode, 2 stars is Maniac, and 3 stars is Lunatic. Now, Lunatic is the highest difficulty here. Donan's going to explain a little bit about the differences between this game's Lunatic and Shadow Dragon's Merciless mode.
Back when Shadow Dragon was first released, it had the hardest hard mode of all Fire Emblem, and we were expecting more or less the same thing for FE12. We were surprised because FE12's Lunatic mode is a lot more difficult than FE11's Merciless mode. And there's basically 4 reasons for this. The first is that FE12 enemies actually have much higher stats. By the end game, you'll often see them with almost maxed out HP and maxed out strength, magic, skill, and speed, whereas in FE11 Merciless mode, they never really got that high. Additionally, FE12 features better enemy diversity, so you can't just kill everything with a Forged Wing Spear. There's also more diverse map objectives, so overall there's more things to do on every map. And on Lunatic mode in particular, the Warp Staff is not obtainable, so the game forces you to play through every chapter in a more or less legit fashion. Now, even on lower difficulties, the Warp Staff is not nearly as available in this game as it was in its predecessor. So, when Mekkah introduced the difficulties, he said that Lunatic was the highest, but recall that we're playing this game on Maniac mode, and the reason we're doing that is because Maniac mode enemies have slightly less stats, they're still pretty high, but more importantly, we get access to the Warp Staff halfway through the game, and overall, we can employ more interesting low turn count strategies compared to if we were to play this game on Lunatic mode, where many of those would not be possible.
So to also help make this playthrough possible, we have some additional advantages over our enemies. One of these is a DLC item called the Rainbow Potion. This is an item you can use in the battle preparations. It has 77 uses, and it works kind of like the tonics from the later games. Tonics give a temporary boost that only lasts for a chapter, and that's what the Rainbow Potion does, but unlike the tonics, it does it for every single stat other than HP. It gives a +2 boost, and this gives us an easier time reaching certain stat benchmarks and making certain strategies possible.
Another feature that we're going to be employing to make this playthrough a bit easier and also more interesting is the merged male class test feature. Recall back in FE11 with reclassing that male units could only reclass into either set A or set B depending on their starting class, after you finish this game on any hard mode difficulty, on subsequent playthroughs, you're allowed to reclass your male units into any male class. So this allows us to, for example, reclass snipers into horsemen and vice versa, as opposed to snipers being limited to only like paladins and Draco Knights.
The last bit that we're using to make this easier is Lunatic base stat boosters. How these work is, when you beat the game in Lunatic mode, from then onward you always have access to some stat boosters in the armory in battle preparations. Doesn't matter what mode you're playing, even outside of Lunatic. There's only 3 of each, and they include things like Angelic Robe and Elite Arm Scrolls. They're pretty cool, and just like the Rainbow Potion, they will help us reach certain benchmarks to make certain strategies possible, and they kind of, but not really, make up for not having any level up, since this game is pretty much based around the assumption that you'll be getting stats upon level up, and we need some way to compensate for that.
Alright, Mekka, thanks for that excellent explanation. So stay tuned for the playthrough. I think it's a great one, probably one of the best that I've done.
Alright, see ya.